Hello everyone, welcome to Gradeup. Welcome to our special revision classes. We have very few days left for CAT, and so today we're going to look at the complete revision for your VARC section. Okay, hello Aninda. All right, so we will look at different types of questions. More than that, I'll talk to you about how to approach those questions, and you can ask me your doubts. I have plenty of questions in the PPT, but it's not really, we don't have to cover all of them. I've just kept all these questions in case you have a doubt, and I can, take you to the question and solve your doubt by showing you a particular example or other. All right, so are you set? Any doubt you have today, ask in the class. Otherwise, join our Gradeup Telegram group. Where you can ask your doubts and we immediately solve it. Okay, students, the students are all part of it, the teachers are all part of it. So you join the Gradeup Telegram group and you can have all the discussions, doubts cleared. Also, it is our 5th anniversary sale, and so the Gradeup Super subscription they've decided to give it at a huge whopping discount. The 18-month subscription is now 12,000, the 12 months is 11,200, 6 is 9,600, and 3 months. So look at this option, which gives you unlimited access to CAT and non-CAT exams. So those of you who are taking non-CAT courses after this, as in those of you interested in the other exams, can definitely look at this for your mock series, online mock series, doubt clearance and other things. Hello everyone. Many of you know me. To those who do not know, I am Savitri Krishnamurthy. I teach verbal ability and reading comprehension. Have been doing it for the last so many years. Seems like a lifetime. And my students are now holding top positions in companies. Some even teach in various management institutions. All right. To watch my videos, to get notifications of my classes, you can follow me on Gradeup on the app, so that you can get notification of all my classes. All right, we have the final revision set for CAT 2020, few more days, in which we're going to cover the most expected questions for quant, DILR and verbal. We'll also do more. Remember, on the 29th, whatever slot you are in, we do an analysis of that slot. Shift 1, the analysis is at 10:45, shift 2 analysis is at 2:45, shift 3 at 6:45, and after that, of course, we will analyze the entire paper together. Once the CAT answer paper is out, we will also discuss one more time. All right, so do tune in again so that you know how you've done. And those of you who are in a later slot, I'm in the second one. Yeah. Okay. So now, are you ready to start? Aninda, maybe only for you. Please get out of the app and come back. Let me put this on public view. Yeah, what happened? Sorry. Oh, something happened. Wait, hold on. Just give me a minute. Okay? I'll just ask my team to help me. Okay. All right. So what exactly is expected? We expect, I cannot see one of the chats, that is the YouTube chat. Give me 2 minutes. All right, and it should be fine. I'm not able to see the YouTube part of the chat, so but I'll continue with the class. So the YouTube guys, just be patient for a little while. Don't ask me any questions till I get the chat back. All right, but I'll continue with the class. I will have sent a message to my team And Vikas has already, I can see him already putting it together. All right, what is expected in CAT 2020? CAT has not given us a proper information on how many questions exactly are going to be given to the students. But we expect for 40 minutes you should not get more than 20 to 25 questions. So our expected question number is 20 to 25 questions per section. So you'd be either answering 60 questions in 120 minutes or 75 remain. So we will have, probably we'll be seeing around 15 questions if it's a 20 question paper, or 17, 18 questions if it's a 25 questions per section paper. Apart from that, we expect the usual para-jumbles without option, odd one out para-jumbles and summaries. Now, there are some students, there are some of my colleagues, especially my colleagues who are working in other places, who are saying that because it's a shorter version, they can play around with the pattern. Well, if they do, then they probably would bring in the fill in the blanks, para completion, at most word usage. We have revised all this in the earlier classes, so you don't have to worry about any of these. All right, but today what am I going to do is I'm going to take you through some of the important questions on reading comprehension, and I'm going to ask you what doubts you have on questions related to that. So keep asking me questions on the session, and I'll be on VARC and on what we are doing, right? Okay, now let's start with reading comprehension. All right, now we again expect the passages to be of moderate level difficulty. There might be one tough passage. All right, if the passages are of moderate or easy to read, then the questions would be a little tricky. The options may be a little close. The topics would be the same as the previous years. We don't expect much change. Last year, if you see in each of the slots, the first passage was a science passage, one which talked about penguins and the Arctic winter. So, and the second one was on a general commentary on slum cities or squatter cities. So you would have identical passages on science, natural science, which is again slightly new for CAT. Earlier it used to give us, in the middle it turned very literature, philosophy and business specific, and last year again we saw them going back to pure science, where it talked about, what I meant is biological science, talking about penguins and how they keep warm and things like that. So you can expect passages on similar subjects. There would be one on Aladdin, which I have used today. Then there would be another on a similar topic, right? So that will go on. And the questions that you expect can still be the same. Every time a reading comprehension passage, we look at a reading comprehension passage and make a mock question. The first one is to see if the student has good reading skills. So one of the questions that one asks always is, what is the main point or the primary purpose of the passage? Now remember, main point is the gist of the passage. Which of the options tells you exactly the passage in one sentence? That's the main point. The primary purpose of the passage is, why do you think the author has written the passage? To bring our attention on something, to marvel at how New York and how cities are actually very environmentally friendly, much against expectations, or what is his main purpose? To criticize a policy, to praise a policy? Why has he written the passage? So look at the question and answer accordingly. As usual, you can expect quite a few. What does the author suggest, or what can you infer from the passage? In the penguin type of passages, science questions, there would be a lot of direct questions, the answers to which will not be very easy to find. So don't be in a hurry to answer the passage. Read the question 2-3 times, make sure you understand what the question is asking. According to the author, according to the passage, the answer is there in the passage. If you read it well, you have to cross-check what you read and mark your answers. All right, obviously, as usual, how would you categorize this passage question can appear. So the categorize this passage comes, either categories of passage come under style and tone. So what are the different, when you read a passage, what do you get? The author is describing an event, describing a scenery, then it is descriptive. Is he telling a story? Is he narrating an incident? Then it is narrative. Is he analyzing a particular policy or a particular theory or a particular book? Then it is analytical. Is he trying to make us support him when he opposes or supports a particular point of view? Then it is argumentative. Alright, or is it just facts? Then it is factual. He doesn't give any his own views. Okay, now what is the author's attitude towards the subject? Is it objective? You can't make out what he is saying, then you say his style is, his tone is objective. But if he has made a lot of personal comments and you feel that he is supporting a particular policy, he is against it, he is definitely against this and used a lot of harsh words, then his tone is subjective. Now under subjective you have a lot of words. Look up the tone words in the past few years question papers so that you know what is the question. You look at the passage, ask yourself what is the question asking. If he asks what is the author's tone in the second paragraph, then the second paragraph he is talking about China's policy to dump its goods on India. Then you read the second paragraph and you say the author feels it was very wrong of China to do it, then you will call it critical. If on the other hand he is in the entire passage he is saying, oh, Newton was a great scientist, he did a lot of things, Galileo was a greater scientist, then the tone of the passage is positive, praising. You look at any of the words which go with praise, right? So look up some of the tone words and so you can get the meaning: sarcastic, satiric, mocking, critical. So these are some of the words that you need to know because they are asked so often, right? So at least 10 to 15 tone words that have been asked in the last few years and that have been asked in the last few mocks of Gradeup. If you just know those words, then you can answer any tone question. All right, and then there is the logical application question. I have given a passage today. If I have the time, we'll cover it, where basically the passage mentions one theory or one particular passage mentions different architectures, says the Greek architecture was of this type, Indian architecture was of this type, on the other hand Roman architecture, Egyptian architecture is this type. Then he'll just describe a building and say, based on the qualities given by the author, which architecture would be used in this, which category does this building belong to. That's called a logical application question. There'll be a theory given in the passage and you will be asked which of these options is analogous to the author's theory as it is given in the passage. That is the main one. You do not control your attempts. What do you need to do is, Abhijit, concentrate and focus completely on the passages. The next few days, just see roughly how much time are you taking per passage which gives you maximum accuracy. That is your speed with maximum accuracy. So then in the exam you would say, okay, if there are 4 passages, 3 passages or 2 I can do with maximum accuracy, then those are the 2 for which you spend your maximum time, and those should be the easiest passages. You can't come up with a difficult set of passages, then you will neither get it accurate and you will also spend a lot of time. So choosing is to do with reading the passages and getting a feel of it and saying ye ho jayega, then do it. But main thing is focus means concentration. Don't get distracted by anything. Don't panic. The moment you read a passage and you start saying this is difficult, how will I do it? Then you say, okay, 1 minute I have read the passage, it looks difficult, go to the next passage. In 2019, all the students found all the passages of slot 1 very difficult. One student wrote a message to me saying, ma'am, it was not English, it was Greek or Latin or some other language that I have never heard of. I didn't think it was a a test of English at all. I mean, this is the feeling they got initially. Now he panicked. So what did he do is he started focusing on the parajumbles, the summaries, and after a while he says, let me see what will happen. And funnily, he got a good grade. He made it to, I don't know, I mean, he got the call in all the IIMs and finally he made it in something. The key is not to panic, to remember that the passages look difficult for everybody, therefore teachers, students, everybody alike, and you should. Abhijit, question I have answered a million times. If you read the questions in CAT, they're not going to help you much. Plus, remember, to read the 5 passages, you have to go through 5 slides. So, do you think it is worth doing that? Will you understand what is happening? Instead, in that time, you can read the passage quickly once and then slowly once in the time that you are trying to read the question. The author will agree with everything except, अच्छा इसमें आपको पहले question पढ़ के what will you get? You can infer everything from the passage except what can you answer if you read the question first? What is the purpose of the author? What can you understand? When you are reading the passage, anyway you try to remember the first reading that you do of the passage, you should have a good idea about the main point of the passage. If you've done that, you know you've read it properly. So remember, read the passage thoroughly but quickly, and that quickly varies from person to person. फिर भी I will tell you that it's just like the passages that come in CAT, like if you really look at it in terms of slides, it will not take more than 3 slides. When I give you the revision classes, you people, I'm giving you 45 seconds per slide, maximum 1 minute per slide. So you're actually reading the passage in 3 minutes. Assume I'm giving it to you again to read it. You are reading the passage in another 3 minutes. Then 6 minutes you have actually read it. Got it? So remember, read the passage. The first reading of the passage should be nice and thorough and with full concentration. As you are reading, at least roughly identify the main point, roughly identify the overall. So first paragraph, author is saying, it seems like an introduction. Second paragraph, he is talking about penguins losing heat. Third paragraph, it says this is a unique way of doing it. Fourth paragraph, it talks about penguins and their breeding. That is how you should remember. And when you are answering, please read all the answer options and then keep eliminating, and you have to be convinced on why you have eliminated it. अच्छा, इसमें ये word है, शायद नहीं होगा. This definitely is wrong. This definitely is wrong. This looks like it. Then you are left with A and D. Now read both. Read the passage, cross-check, and then understand. Of course, it's a good time. 3 minutes 30 to read the passage is good. All right. So on the day of CAT, I would not do anything. I would relax, eat a good breakfast and not do anything. That is my view. I do not know about yours. All right. So are you ready to start the first of the passages from last year? Start. Ready to start? Any other questions? So now I will give you 45 seconds per slide. Got it? In case you've done this passage before, many of you might have, because it's a 2019 passage. So I have chosen all passages from past year question papers because I personally believe that nobody can make the passage questions better than the CAT question setters themselves. Okay, we try, we make it as close to the passage as possible, but we cannot be them. So giving their question, even if you've read it, try to read it again as if you're going to explain it to somebody. कैसे पढ़ोगे? How will you remember it? All right, so let me start the first one. Your time starts now. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, next slide is questions. All right, now, do you want to look at the passage again, each of the slides for 30 seconds, so you quickly recap the main point of each slide? 30 seconds. Start. The main point of each slide. Danga. Riots means danga. Okay, next. 30 seconds. Quickly try to understand whatever you understand, put it in your own words, and in 30 seconds. Just read whatever you are reading. You are reading it the second time. You're going to remember it better now. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. Now you've actually read the passage twice. So in the exam, do it any which way you want. Okay. Whether you want to read it once and then look at the questions, go back and cross check. But I basically let you read the passage twice. First slightly slowly, next time really fast. Question 1. All of the following are evidence that Aladdin was based on Hannah Diab's character, except that this character Aladdin was actually based on Hannah Diab, the Syrian traveler. All of the following support that theory, except which one? Quickly, I want your answers, A, B, C or D. After we are done with all the questions, then I'll explain the answers. What do you think, or where do you want to go back? Shall I take you back to the passage? Okay, answers have come in. Let's finish all the answers. Second para. Okay, Monil wants to see the second paragraph, so I'll show you. I'll show it to you for 30 seconds, Monil, and then we will go back again. Those of you who have given the answers, you can read it and change your answer after seeing the options again, if you think you want to change your answers. I'm showing you the second slide again. Okay, I'm itching to underline the lines which are relevant, but I won't do it. Okay, all right. Now, all of the following are evidence that Aladdin was based on Hannah Diab, except Hannah Diab was the Syrian traveler who told the story to Galland. Based on his story, Galland made the story of Aladdin. That's what this passage is saying. So, which is the answer? All right. Some answers have come in. I'm not happy with those, but I'll tell you where you made the mistake. Second one, question 2. The author of the passage is most likely to agree with which of the following explanations for the origins of the story of Aladdin. So the author of the story has a theory of what is the origin of the story of Aladdin. So which of these options goes closest or is closest or identical to the, please give the question number. Question 2, what is the answer? Or tell me which part of the passage I should show you. Write question 2 and give me your answers. Doesn't matter. If you're wrong, I'll show you exactly where you're going wrong. If you're wrong, I'll show you exactly where you're going wrong. So after this, we'll discuss the passage again. Then I'll let you change your answer. So look at all 4 options. Think, use your brains. Don't let your brains rust. Put the question number before you tell me. 2 is A, B, C or D. Galland received the story of Aladdin from Diab's travelogue. Paragraph 1. Okay, Monil, I'm going to show you paragraph 1. "30 seconds, I'm going to show Monil the paragraph, the first paragraph. I would advise the others also to read it. I'm showing you the second slide also. Okay, first also I have shown, second also I have shown. Got it? Okay. What do you think the author is saying is the origin of the story of Aladdin? How do you think this story came up? Is it that Galland derived it from Diab's travelogue? Did the author say that? Is it that the story of Aladdin has its origins in the incomplete manuscript of a medieval Arabic collection of stories? Basing it on his own life experiences, Diab told the story of Aladdin to Galland, who then included it in his Arabian Nights? Or is it D, he received the story from Diab, who in turn found it in an incomplete medieval manuscript? What do you think is the answer? Got it? I've seen all answers A, B and C. Okay, no D's so far. All right. Question 3. Which of the following would invalidate, would make wrong the inversion that the phrase flips the script refers to? The author said that Diab's story kind of flips the script about the origin of Aladdin's story. Which one would invalidate or show that the author's story of flipping the script is wrong, that there is no flipping the script happening here? I'll show you the last part of this stanza. For 300 years, scholars thought that the rags to riches story of Aladdin might have been inspired by the plots of French fairy tales. Authors thought it might have come from French fairy tales. That's the last line. And then now look at the next part. Next part. Where the term flips the script has been given. So the author says something flips the script. And the question is asking which one would make this claim of the author wrong. Read it? Okay, let me show you the question. Look at 3, look at all the options of 3. Diab's travelogue described the affluence of the French city of Bordeaux instead of Versailles. The French fairy tales of the 18th century did not have rags to riches plot lines like that of the tale of Aladdin. The description of opulence in Hannah Diab's and Antoine Galland's narratives bore no resemblance to each other. Galland acknowledged that he heard the story from Diab. Which one would invert the flip the script? Only one answer so far, guys. Only Priya has given the answer. Question 3. Oh, here quite a few. Anvesha has given the answer. The others, you have not mentioned the answer number. Okay. Akhil, 3. Put 3 across the answer, against the answer, so that I know. Alright, quickly guys, those of you who want to type in your answers, quickly do it before I show you the next question. The faster we do, the more questions we can solve. Question 4. What is the primary reason for storytellers? For why nahi hoga? With primary reason, why does not follow? What is the primary reason why? Which of the following is the primary reason for storytellers to be still fascinated by the story of Aladdin? I'll take you back to the passage. Yes. No, I'll take you back to where he says about storytellers. Here, from here. To the scholar who studied the tale, from there till the next slide. Its narrative drama isn't the only reason storytellers keep finding reason to go back to Aladdin. It reflects not only a history of the French and Middle East, not only because of the storyline, but because it's a story of French, storyline about the French and Middle East, but also because, and he has given the answer. He has given some statements. So, what is the answer for 4? Quickly type in your answers for 4. Quickly type in whatever do you think is the right answer. Okay, and we will do this in great detail. All of you done? I've only seen 5-6 answers, but okay. I'm not sure if the answers you've given are correct, but I'm glad you've given some answer. Okay, last question of the set before I go back to the passage, and I'm going to read it, and then I'll let you see where you made the mistake, if you made the mistake. Which one doesn't contribute? The author says that Hannah Diab must be the real author of the Tales of Aladdin. Which one doesn't contribute to the passage's claim about the authorship of Aladdin? Question 5. The narrative sensibility of Diab's travelogue, the depiction of affluence of Versailles in Diab's travelogue, Gallen's acknowledgement of Diab in his diary, which one doesn't contribute? The author has used some evidence to say that based on these we can say that the original story of Aladdin came from Diab, not Galland. Which one does not substantiate that? There's one in this which does not substantiate the author's claim that Diab is the original narrator of the Aladdin tales. That's what the question is asking. Okay. Okay, now let me take you back to the passage. Alright, this is how you're supposed to read it. Please remember, reading is the most important part, but utna dheere bhi mat padho that you'll start panicking. Oh my God, I've spent 10 minutes. My main worry about you reading very slowly is you start panicking. The credit for telling the tale of Aladdin has gone to Galland. Okay, the first European translator of the Arabian Nights, which started as a series of translations. So what did Galland do? He translated an incomplete manuscript of a medieval Arabic story collection, and therefore the credit for telling Aladdin's tale goes to Galland. What did Galland do? He translated from a medieval, incomplete medieval manuscript. But though these tales were of medieval origin, Aladdin, the person Aladdin, may be, that is the Arabian Nights may be of medieval origin, but the character Aladdin may be a more recent invention. Scholars have not found a manuscript of the story that predates or is found before 1712 by Galland. What did Galland do? He wrote in his diary that he first heard the story of Aladdin from a Syrian storyteller from Aleppo named Hannah Diab. Aleppo is a place in Syria. Galland wrote that, actually I heard Aladdin's story first from a Syrian storyteller called Hannah Diab. Okay, now the first paragraph is done. Easy, you should understand it like that. Next, despite the fantastical elements of the story, a lot of parts of the story have fantastical elements, nothing very realistic. But scholars feel that the main character may actually be based on a real person's real experiences. That Aladdin may be an actual, real existing character with real experiences. Galland did not credit Diab in his published translations of the Arabian Nights stories, but Diab himself wrote a travelogue in the mid-18th century. So Galland has his diary where he said, I heard this story from Diab, but in his published books, he never said that he never gave credit to Diab for the story. But Diab wrote a travelogue, and in that travelogue he writes that he told Galland the story of Aladdin. So Diab wrote in his travelogue that he told the story of Aladdin to Galland. He also describes his own hard knocks upbringing. He struggled a lot in his childhood. So he told of how he suffered and struggled in his he grew up in he faced a lot of problems while growing up. And third, how he marveled, how he was fascinated by the extravagance, by the show of money, by the opulence of the place Versailles in France. All right. The descriptions that he uses to describe Versailles are similar to the description of the palace that Aladdin used, that Galland used in the Aladdin story. So Diab here in his travelogue is describing the opulence of Versailles, saying such a beautiful place, such a beautiful palace, it had this. The description he wrote in his travelogue is identical to the description that Galland gives in his story of Aladdin. Looking at that, people, especially the author Paulo Lemos Horta, says Aladdin might be this Arab Maronite from Aleppo. Who is the Arab Maronite from Aleppo? Diab. So Horta says this Arab Syrian guy from Aleppo must have been Aladdin. So Aladdin is nobody but Diab, who went from Syria to France, to Versailles. When he looked at the palace of Versailles, he was marveling at the jewels and the riches of Versailles. Second para done. From 300 years, scholars thought that the rags to riches story of Aladdin might have been. So 300 years, what was the impression? And the author will correct the impression. So remember, for 300 years, this is what scholars thought. Aladdin was inspired by the stories of French fairy tales, or that one, either it was inspired by French fairy tales, or it was inspired by French Orientalism. In those days, the French were fascinated by anything which is Middle Eastern or Oriental, either French fairy tales or French fascination of the Middle East. The idea that Diab might have based it on his own life flips the script. What is the script? Aladdin is based on French fairy tales or French fascination with the Middle East, what he calls Orientalism. That is the script. That is not that Aladdin is based on Diab's character, flips this script. This is the script that the author says has been flipped when you say that Diab was actually a Middle Easterner and not French fairy tale inspired. Diab was ideally placed to embody the overlapping of East and West. He was an Easterner. He was a Middle Easterner. He was a Syrian who had gone to France. And he took the storytelling traditions of his homeland, which is Syria, and he also observed entire France. Imagine going to France for the first time, and his youthful observations of wonder, everything about France appeared wonderful to him. He was awestruck, and his descriptions are of this young storyteller from Syria who's gone and who's seen, and that description is reflected in Aladdin's stories. But to scholars who study the tale, it's narrative drama. It's not just the narrative, the story, which it isn't the only reason that they keep returning to Aladdin. Then what is the reason that it keeps going back? The story is there, but the story is not the only reason why they are going back to the Aladdin story. It's not just the narrative. It reflects not only a history of the French and the Middle East, but also, remember, anything that goes after but or but also is the most important part. The reason they keep going back to it is a story of Middle Easterners coming to Paris, of people traveling, and that speaks to our world today. It's a story of people moving from Syria all the way to Paris. And that, the traveling part, the emigrating part, the fact that you have travelers traveling from total east to the west, which speaks to our world today, which fascinates us. That's what he's saying. The day Diab was telling the story of Aladdin to Galland, what happened? There was riots. Now, author is saying Diab was sensitive to the rioters because they were mostly Middle Easterners who were not finding food. Galland won't be sensitive. Galland is a rich Frenchman. Why would he worry? Second, when you read his diary, you also see that he empathizes. He has solidarity with the Arabs. Now, Galland's writing shows that he was not capable of being sensitive. Suppose you cover a story with which you can relate to, the way you write the story will be different. So, the way Diab looked at what was happening in Paris at that time was written with a sensitivity because he cared for what was happening, which wouldn't have happened with Galland because Galland couldn't have cared less, according to the author. There is little in the writings of Galland that would suggest that he was capable of developing a character like Aladdin with sympathy. Okay, Diab's memoir, on the other hand, reveals that he had the ability to capture the psychology of a young protagonist, that is Aladdin, that he himself was that. Also recognize the injustices and opportunities that come in the way of a youthful adventurer, which is what is Aladdin, right? Aladdin is the story of a poor guy who suddenly becomes rich. And he says that the way the story has been told could have been very well told only by Diab, not by Galland, because Diab had the psychology to understand the problems of the Arabs in Paris, the problems that people face, injustices, opportunities of a traveler, because he himself is one of them. This is what the author is saying. Understood. So, the question 1, evidence for Aladdin's character being based on Hannah Diab. Many of you wrote this. He has said here, right, the fact that he was ideally placed to overlap the world of East and West, that is because of his cosmopolitan and cross-cultural experience. He was an Easterner who had gone to the West, Aladdin going to France. Therefore, Aladdin's story must have, Aladdin going to Versailles must have been based on Diab's story. Second, his humble origins, his hard knocks upbringing, which has been given in his travelogue, that is also. His description of the wealth of Versailles. Now, how did this show? He narrated the original story to Galland. How does that show that he is the author? The story is based on him. The author says that the story reflects cosmopolitanism. It shows that Diab was sensitive. He had experience, which is why he could write like that. He was sensible to injustice, oppression. He himself had come from a very humble background. So, A, B and C justify that Diab had put together the character of Aladdin so beautifully. What did he narrate in his original story to Galland? We do not know. So, the answer for 1 is D, by the way. Okay. Alright. Now, let's move to the second question. Why does the author agree that Diab's must be the basis of that Aladdin is no one else but Diab? Which of the following would the author most likely to agree with? His main claim is Aladdin is no one but Diab. It is Diab telling his own life story and experiences with a little embroidery. Galland derived the story of Aladdin from Diab's travelogue. He did not derive the story of Aladdin from Diab's travelogue. Diab's travelogue Galland never even read. Diab told the story to Galland, but how do we know that Aladdin is based on Diab's travelogue? Because Galland never even attributed Diab the authorship of Aladdin's story. So, A is wrong. The story of Aladdin has its origin in an undiscovered. No. The story of the Arabian Nights are based on a medieval Arabic collection. The story of Aladdin, on the other hand, was told to Galland by Diab. The Arabian Nights, yes, he translated a medieval Arabic set of stories. But the story of Aladdin is not in that medieval manuscript, by the way. Based on his, yes, this is the answer. Diab told the story of Aladdin to Galland based on his own experiences, and Galland included that in his. So that would go with the author's idea, which is exactly what the author is saying. It never told us that Diab found it in an incomplete medieval manuscript. This is wrong. So the answer for 2 is C. Understood? Okay. Question 3. Flip the script. Now you understand what was the script. What was the script? That the story of Aladdin was inspired by a French fairy tale. This is the original script. Or by inspired by French Orientalism. That means French people's fascination for everything Oriental. This is the script. He said, but Hannah Diab's story flips the script because it is not a French fairy tale on which Aladdin is based. Aladdin is based on the story of a Middle Eastern or a Syrian storyteller who comes to Versailles. He is asking which one would invalidate this, that what you are saying is wrong. That means you have to show that the story of Aladdin is not based on Diab's own experiences. Correct. Diab's travelogue described the affluence of Bordeaux instead of Versailles. What does it matter if you had mentioned Bordeaux and Galland had mentioned Versailles? It still is Diab's description. So this does not invalidate the script. The French fairy tales did not have rags to riches. It then also doesn't flip the script because according to the author, Aladdin was inspired either by the French fairy tales or by French Orientalism. Cannot be B. The description bore no resemblance. On what basis are we saying that this and that are the same? In the travelogue, Diab mentions Versailles and he describes Versailles. Oh, the palace was like this. It was so beautiful. So well. And he must have told the same thing to Galland. And Galland mentioned it in his story. Now, if Galland's narrative and Diab's narrative, the description were different, then we know that Aladdin's story is made up, not based on his personal experience. So the answer for 3 is C. Okay, all of them, by the way, this is a tough passage, but if you read it correctly, then you can read it. Now remember, the language of the passage is okay-ish, and he is asking what should we do. If you've spent, so Monil is asking the question that if this passage was very nice, Aladdin, Arabian Nights laga, but every question turned out to be difficult. So when you read it, if you looked at the first question and found that you couldn't do it, you read it when you skim it and you decide you're going to attempt it, then at least try few questions you can attempt. Less than a minute per question. You're not comfortable, then go, because you've spent time reading the passage. And not all questions were, see 1 and 2, if you had read the passage properly, Monil, 1 and 2 you could have answered. 3, yes, many students made a mistake and flipped the script. But generally, once you've read the passage, you can leave 1 or 2 questions which are hard, but at least attempt a few. And make sure you cross-check with the passage. Alright, 4. What is the primary reason why we are still fascinated by the story of Aladdin? Go back. Where does he talk about it? He says it is not just the narrative drama. It is not only a history. So what is Aladdin's story? It's a narrative drama. It's a history of the French and Middle East, but also, so what follows but also is the main reason why we are going back first. which is, it is about people traveling to Paris, and that story of a traveler is what fascinates us. The question, Sai Harish, that Monil asked is that the passage looked easy. I started reading the questions and then I found that the questions are difficult. Then what to do? If you read the passage initially and find it hard, you skip it and go to the next one. Then it is okay. But if you've already read the passage once quickly but thoroughly, then you can attempt at least a few questions or go to the next. I would say that at least 2 out of the 4 questions are easy. So what is the answer for question 4? Many of you got it wrong. The traveler's experience. It is the travelers. The fact that they traveled from Middle East to France is what resonates with the modern reader. So the answer for 4 is A. Many of you said something about the history. Of course, it is the history of the Middle East and Europe, but also, not only is it, so but also is the main reason. A. Got it? Question 5. The passage claims that Hannah Diab is the original author of Aladdin. The story of Aladdin is based on Diab's character. What are the points he gave? He says the narrative sensibility. Only somebody who's gone through experiences like Diab could have mentioned this travelogue. I'll answer all your questions. Let me just finish the 5th question, Harsha. Okay. Second, yes, affluence based on the description of the passages. Galland has acknowledged Diab in his diary. All show that it is Diab's connection. But not this, because remember, French fairy tales of the 18th century are rags to riches. But that is not the reason why we say Diab is the author. Right? Alright, let me now go to the questions. Now, the first question that Monil asked for all of you is, for me is, and this is for all of you to listen to, that when you read the passage looked easy, like the Aladdin passage. Actually, many people found it very difficult. But let's say you read the passage, I would skim the passage first. Okay, and I would skim it for less than a minute. That's what I do, Harsha. I basically follow the maths formula that all of you follow. The person who taught me aptitude test answering taught me to solve questions just like I would solve a maths question, whereby you first judge the paper. Now, the problem with many of you is, and I know you keep coming back to me and saying, when I try to do that, I feel I'm wasting time. The moment that thought comes into your head, मैं time waste कर रहा हूँ, why am I doing reading, then that is not working for you. But let's say question 1 says directions for questions 1 to 5. The first passage is there. It takes you about a minute. Read the first passage. See the kind of language. See the kind of content given there within a minute. Let's say 30-45 seconds. You feel nahi hoga. Aladdin, Diab, Aleppo, all these words I am not happy with. So you are taking 45 seconds to judge the first passage as tough. Okay. Then move to questions 6 to 10. Judge that passage. Again, you are losing about 45 seconds max. Second looks easy. Penguin, heat, this is moderate. Now here, many students would attempt the passage before moving on. Fantastic. Do that. Okay. Third one, let's say, is a para-jumble. Okay. And you don't like para-jumbles. Then, so you will say question 11 to 13, I will not attempt. Okay. Now, 14 to 18. Again, you read a passage, it says topophilia and usi ke saath sar dard ho gaya. Then you skip and go to the 19th and to 25, if it's a 25, and see what that is. Alright, then you have 3 para-jumbles, 2 summaries, 1 passage, 3 passages left. Now you see which is your strength. You will say, acha, para-jumble without options is my weakness. I never get it right. I will not do it. But maybe I can do the summary questions and the odd one out para-jumbles in 5 minutes. Tita question hai, but I will give myself 5 minutes. Finish it. Within the 3 passages, Aladdin, Topophilia and something else, third was the best. Let me attempt the third one first. That you can do. I would judge the entire paper. The moment I come across a sitter, a very easy question or an easy passage, I would attempt it, finish it, so that my confidence goes. That is the main way you go about it. And the moment you decide a passage, do not rely on your imperfect memory of the passage. Never do that. हाँ यही होगा. Many of you marked A, history. But he said of course it is the story, of course it is the history, but it is also about. So then you know history, just because it is mentioned, history is not the right question. So go back to the passage and read. The good part is the question is there, the passage is there. For every question, the passage is given to you in front. Okay, Topophilia looked hard, Harish, but it was actually easy if you did not panic. And remember, the last 5 minutes leave for the theta questions, because last 5 minutes you start panicking. At that time, do the theta questions where your errors do not really cost you any marks. There is absolutely no harm in going back to cross check. In fact, you should do it. Reading a passage and reading it again and again, samajh mein nahi aaya, is wrong. But if you cross check, read, first time I have read it, I didn't understand anything about Topophilia. But now that there is a question on the definition of Topophilia, I'll go back to the first paragraph and read that line, simplify it in my own words, look at the option which goes close to it. So remember, you are spending as much time in eliminating options as you are in reading it. And so when you are eliminating options, you are again going back to the passage to find out where the answer is, read it again so you understand it perfectly and you mark the answers. Because the answers are all created keeping in mind your imperfect memory of the passage. Okay, that is the main one. Antriksh, impossible to answer. How many questions should I attempt in VARC? Impossible to answer. I'll tell you why. If it is an easy passage like 2017, if the questions are easy, number of attempts will automatically go up. So maximize your attempts within the time. So some student told me that when I read a passage slowly, as in if I give 4-5 minutes to read a passage, I'm getting 85% or 90% accuracy in the passage. Then why don't you do that? Do at least 2 to 3 passages with 90% accuracy, and then the other questions you hurry a bit. And when you are doing that, 80% of the questions is always ideal to get you into the 99 plus percentile, Nikhil. If it is 20 questions, 80% of the 20 questions that you are getting with accuracy. See, for 34 questions, 23-24 questions correct attempts out of 34 would take you into the 90 plus percentile, 95 plus percentile easily. So what you need to know is, do not look at it in terms of a number. You don't even know how many questions are being asked, whether it's 20 or 25 or 34. If they cannot give you 34. If they give you 34, then the passages will be easier, the questions will be easier, the fill in the blanks, or they may ask you vocab questions. We don't know anything. You're going there almost, we are assuming it's 20 to 25, in which case 15, 16, 25, then about 17, 18 will be RC based on our past experience. Got it? Thumb rule in any aptitude test is 80% of the questions with 80% accuracy. So just focus. You know, I don't even look at how much time has gone till 3/4 of the time has gone. Okay, and then it's unlike GMAT, it's not like GMAT where you have to answer a question before you go to the next question. So I'm acutely aware of the time when you take the GMAT exam. But for this, you don't have to do that. So you say, okay, I have 1 hour, the clock is ticking. So till 30-40 minutes, I actually finish the paper by then, which is of course a very big problem of mine. I goof it up. That's why overconfidence ho jata hai. This time I have told Vijay I will not be overconfident. I shall do it slowly and properly. All right. So now the next passage is horribly, horribly hard. Do you want us to do that? Or do you want me to first take you through what if you get a question that is a para completion, which we haven't done. So this is the possible, might make a comeback question. I'll just tell you the rough strategy or the method, the best approach to a para completion. In a para completion question, they will give you how much time is, again, you are getting 40 minutes, no Antriksh. So in 40 minutes, how many questions can you get in? How much time are you taking per passage? Today, the passage that I gave you, the Aladdin passage, I gave you 1 minute. So there were 3 slides. I gave you 6 minutes to read the passage. So in that 6 minutes, how will you be doing it? I do everything. Yeah, I will do para jumbles as well. Yeah. Okay. So para completion is a paragraph is given to you and the last sentence is removed. And they will ask you which is the best way to complete the paragraph. So remember, if they say best way to complete, they are not asking you to conclude. Conclude is a critical reasoning question. But in CAT, they say which of the, you are being given a paragraph from which the last sentence has been removed. From the options, choose the sentence that completes the passage. That's the directions given to you. In which case, first read the paragraph, identify the theme and roughly the tone, as in, okay, the language and tone seem to be very objective. This happened, this happened, this happened. Then the last line also will be in the same tone. If it is praising something or it is very critical of something, then you know that the last line is also likely to be in a negative tone. So that roughly tell yourself that the language and the tone also, because the missing last line has to be on the same theme as the paragraph. The language should be the same and the last line of the paragraph is most important, and this would be linked to that. So overall, what is the passage saying? What is the last line saying? And then do it. So taking the theme, what is the theme? Read it and then tell me. Prasanna has already come in with an answer. I will not tell you right or wrong though. The end of knowledge and the closing of the frontier that it symbolizes is not a looming crisis at all, but merely one of the many embarrassing fits of hubris in civilization's long industry. Hubris, arrogance. In the end, it will pass away and be forgotten. What's he saying? The end of knowledge, we know everything, okay, is just one of the embarrassing fits of hubris of human civilization. In the end, this feeling will pass away and be forgotten, because ours is not the first generation to struggle to understand the laws of the frontier. What is the ultimate knowledge? Deceive itself that it has succeeded and go to its grave having failed. We are not the first generation to think that we have conquered knowledge and reached the frontier. We are not the first to think that we have conquered knowledge, deceive ourselves that we have succeeded, and go to our grave having failed. Okay, now first part, we have learnt everything that will be learnt, will pass away and be forgotten. We are not the first generation to be arrogant enough to think that we have reached the frontier. We are not the first generation to deceive ourselves that we have succeeded, and we are not the first generation that will go to its grave having failed. So is the author going to say we might be the first generation? Why would he say that? He's saying ours is not the first generation to do this. He calls it that it is just an embarrassing fit of hubris in civilization to think that we've reached the frontiers of knowledge is only an embarrassing phase that every civilization goes through. We're not the first civilization to think like it, and we're not the first civilization which will go to our grave having failed. So he's not going to say this, he's not going to say which crisis. It's not a crisis. Knowing your one, therefore remember, it will be wise to be humble. Chota sa virus has conquered IT, BT, AI, everything. The whole world came to its knees. So the only thing that goes with the theme and the tone of the passage is A. So the key is understand what is the theme, understand what is the author saying finally. And the last line, we are not the first generation to understand the laws of the frontier, to be deceived that we have succeeded, and to go to our grave having failed. If he says this, why will he say that therefore we are going to but we may be the first one? He's not going to say. He's very clear, as in we are not the first, we are not going to be the last. That seems to be his tone. So the answer is A. Alright, so para completion, remember there would be certain paragraphs which would be just describing things, then the last sentence will be an extension of the last line on the same theme, or it could be like this where you are more focused on what he is saying, on the tone, and then decide what's the last one. So should you get a para completion, do not worry, though in CAT in the past para completions have been very, very tough. Very tough. So type in the answer question. If it is theta, of course, obviously you're not going to leave it. Right? Next one, summary. I have again chosen past question papers. Funnily, this is one I have done in class many times and I have found a maximum number of mistakes in this question, which is why I selected this. So I want you to read the paragraph. Summary is very closely related to your reading speed. You're good at reading comprehension, you will be good at summary. So read the paragraph given to you, tell yourself this is the main point, this are the things that are the main point. The summary should be built around the main point, not on the examples given. So the key is, what should the summary do? It should give the main points of the passage. Illustrations, data, example, these are not the main points. These are only support points. You might, the option might mention a support point just to confuse you. That doesn't make it the wrong option. But if the option changes the summary in the example into the main point, that's obviously wrong. And it should not misrepresent any fact given in the passage by twisting the words given there. Right? It should, what has been mentioned about the subject in the passage should be mentioned in the summary also. The moment you read the summary and you say, no, here the meaning is something different from what has been mentioned, that cannot be the right one. And it obviously cannot have anything that has not been mentioned in the passage, because we are looking at a summary of the passage, right? So what do you think is the summary of the best summary of this passage? Give me the question number, guys. Put it as 16. So we moved from 5 to 16. But the main thing is 5 to 15. I just wanted to explain for you to understand. See, restate the points in your own words. That's the best way, Deepika. Restate the main points in your own words. Social movement organizations struggle to mobilize supporters from allied movements to achieve critical mass. Organizations, so these people find it difficult to mobilize supporters from similar movement, but organizations with hybrid identities, whose organizational identities span 2 or more social movements, they are vital to mobilize these constituencies. Hybrid organizations can get better membership. Studies of post 9/11 US anti-war movement shows that individuals with past involvement in non-anti-war movements join hybrid organizations than individuals without involvement in non-anti-war movements. So those who are in anti-war movements seem to be more, non-anti-war movements seem to be more likely to join it rather than people who are not part of such groups. In addition, they show that, research shows that hybrid identities occupy more central positions in inter-organizational contact networks. So, hybrid organizations have better inter-organizational contact networks, and therefore they have more participants than non-hybrid. So, basically what's the topic? Hybrid organizations get more members, have more contacts, can mobilize critical mass, can get lot more people than pure non-hybrid movement. That seems to be the main point. So, when you say that to yourself, you get the idea easily, right? Therefore, answer is D. A talks of only post 9/11. Post 9/11 study is given as an example of how hybrid versus non-hybrid, which is better and what are the problems they face. So, post 9/11 is not the main point any which way. So, A is not the answer. 9/11 has been given as an example on how hybrid organizations don't get enough members and non-hybrid organizations have the contacts, have the resources to have more members. Therefore, the answer is D. All right. Next one. We will do para-jumbles. So, guys, I have a class at 4. So, I need to, I'll finish the para-jumbles and one odd one out para-jumbles. Okay. All right. 4 means by 3:30 I have to put on my preview, see what lesson it is. So, I get a little, I panic a little otherwise. What do you think is the now for para-jumbles? Please read each sentence carefully. Read it, articulate it, understand it thoroughly. Take about a minute. Now, in the exam, at least a minute to 1.5 minutes if you take, if you have the time, of course, the chances of you getting it right are higher. Odd one out, you have almost 90% accuracy, but here also you can get, if you read it thoroughly, you can link, you can find, acha, this is saying about this is carrying on from there, and accordingly you can go. And as you read, decide what's the starter. So, with the paper, as you are reading, you start connecting the sentences. Conceptualizations of women's time as contrary to clock time and clock time as synonymous with economic rationalism are two of the deleterious results of this representation, whatever that representation. What is deleterious? Women's time as contrary to clock time. Okay. While dichotomies of men's time, women's time, clock time and caring time can be analytically useful, this article argues that everyday caring practices incorporate a multiplicity of time and both men and women can engage in these multiple times. When the everyday practices of working soul fathers and working soul mothers are examined, it is found that caring time is often more focused on the clock than generally theorized. Clock time has been consistently represented in feminine literature as a masculine artifact. All right. Clock time has been consistently represented in feminine as a matter of time is money perspective. So, 4 is a good starter. 4, 3, 1, 2 or 4. Which is a better one? Which is a better one? How much time preparation means what? I don't understand, Rosalie. All right. Okay, one odd one out quickly. 20th question, one odd one out quickly. 4, 1, 3, 2. That's the answer. What did I mark? I must have marked that 4132. Yeah. 20. Quickly, how will you do odd one out? The same way. Read it. As you read it, look at the theme and you will get a sentence which is not the same thing. That is the wrong one. Or if you find everything of the same theme seems to be talking of the same subject, then talk of something which is talking of some other aspect of the subject. That may be the wrong one. So in this, it's pretty easy. As you are reading, if you try to put the sentences together itself, you will get the answer. Don't make the mistake that I made when I typed, instead of clocking in one, instead of keying in one number, I keyed in the correct order, which is wrong. You have to only mention the odd one out, right? That is a mistake I make. All right, guys. Quickly, last question. I'm running out of time. 20. What do you think? Roughly, when you read it, what do you think is the odd one out? For what, Rosalie? 3 months. You have only 3 more days, 4 more days. Yes, 3 months, depending on how much you read. All right. Research has shown that simple rumination, the process of churning your thoughts, is not the way to achieve self-realization. Research has shown that people who are prone to rumination often suffer from impaired decision making. It means research suggests, and this. So 1 is the odd one out. Got it? Depends on the time you are giving yourself. If you are giving plenty of time to yourself, then yes, it's enough. All right. You should not rush, and remember, the rush part of it in the last 5 minutes should be left to the theta questions, but not all the theta questions. Again, summary you can do with great accuracy. 5 is talking of something. No. The idea is small change in perspective. Harish is talking about Julius Caesar third person. 2 and 5. Talking about yourself in third person becomes odd one out slide. Here, I've put it. All right. Rosalie, call the number at on your screen, 9650052904. 52904. Please do that. All right. One of my teammates would call you back. Just call them. All right. Free structure. I have no idea. I'm only a teacher. But yes, I have to help you. So please call the number on your screen. All right, guys. I must rush. I wish I had 1 more hour. I could have sat with you and done it. But I have a class coming up at 4. So just a few hints. Stay focused. You've done everything possible. You've answered questions. Believe in yourselves. Focus on the test. Stay calm and composed. I wish you all the very best from the bottom of my heart. It would give me so much pleasure to hear back from you where you say I've done well. I'm expecting a call. Even better, if you say I've got the call, then I can of course guide you for your GDPI and essay preparations, your VAT preparations. All the best. Stay calm. Stay composed. Read well. If you read well, nobody can stop you from getting into the IIMs. Spend time in eliminating options. Don't rush. The first 20-25 minutes should be totally on your strengths, and the next 15 minutes would be on the others. All right. Judge the paper. Do the easier questions first and then the tougher ones. All right. All the best. God bless you. May all your dreams come true. Bye-bye. Rosalie, please call the number on your screen and you will get all the information. 9650052904. All right. All of you, each and every one of you, all the very best. Okay, I might miss out a name if I mention a few. I can only see some. So I don't want to do that. All right. Bye-bye. Bye. All my blessings are with you, because in your success lies my success. In your happiness lies my happiness. It's a reflection of me as a teacher. Your performance in the exam is also a reflection of me as a teacher. Like, how did I convince you to do the right things? All right. So remember that. You take CAT only once or twice in your life. I've taken it for the last 25 years and multiple times. With each student, I feel as if I'm taking CAT again and again. Bye guys. I'll get late for my class. Bye.